What's going on, everybody? The 2023 and 24 NBA season officially tipped off a couple of weeks ago, and it's time to get our coverage started with this year's NBA season. There's an in-season tournament started. There's a already big trade that took place. There's a rising star beginning to show who the hell he is. And we have a lot of other good stuff to start off our coverage of the NBA season. Fresh Faces is with me to this evening to talk all about it. What's up?
How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad we are able to kick it off and have some good things ahead. So the first thing I want to talk about regarding this NBA season is simply the in-season tournament. So the in-season tournament started about 2 weeks ago. They're usually every Friday and Sunday. We are seeing unique courts. It should last up until the middle of December, and the winner gets a player share and they become much richer. So the point of this was to have more spark into the regular season and to also inspire players to give more of an effort in the regular season. We also know, things were changing with the new CBA, which included player participation, minimum 65 games during big player awards. And we have this tournament to help, keep that going and make sure people aren't too lazy moving forward. So my first question to you is what do you think of the in-season tournament so far with its very artistic courts? And do you think it's getting the point across? And do you think players are putting more of an effort in this early part of the season?
The court's all right. I think it's again my thoughts on this haven't really changed from when it was originally announced. I think it's too early in the season. Um, Especially like the first month. First off, the guys who like getting back into shape because they don't stay in shape in the playoff or during the off season. So like the first month is them trying to figure it out. Also, it's the first month of the season. Like there's so much random um variance. Like guys get hot for like the first month, or they just can't shoot for the first month because they haven't been playing basketball. I think it's too early to like throw this type of um of thing in. You really need to find a low point in the season. That's kind of like right after the trade deadline, and after March Madness. Like that's where this should have been. As for the participation, I don't know. I don't think it really. I don't think we're going to see it being an issue. Like it's going to hurt some guys. Like I think Jamal Murray is going to get really fucked over by this, because he got hurt.
Yeah,
So he
already.
basically, yeah. So like just in his case, who a guy who already has basically never been an All Star simply because he just been hurt all the time, but we know is a fantastic player. Um, he may get screwed out of like an All NBA team and not have be able to sign whatever the next max is for him, just simply because of this rule, and not because he was resting. He got hurt. He has to miss an entire month of the season. Like, uh, assuming he comes back on time, he may have to play literally every game for the rest of the season, simply because he needs to reach that threshold. So he like that's a. On the other hand, like we haven't seen any of the we haven't seen all three of the Suns players together yet this
I
season.
know in Beal, KD, and Devin Brooks.
And I'm pretty sure Jimmy Butler
Devin
just
Booker.
missed a game. Um,
Yes. With Miami had a slow start there. They've been picking up a little bit, so but
but like
yeah.
I look, it's not gonna we're not gonna really see the impact of it this season. It'll be next season, would be my guess for the player thing, because it's gonna be for like there's gonna be some weirdness where somebody who probably like should get an award or be on like an all NBA team isn't going to make it because they played like 63 games or 60 games or something like that. And then they'll be like, okay, maybe this is, maybe they'll care more now. But I don't think it's like um I don't think we're going to really know this year. I think the in-season tournament is fine. I think it's still a little confusing, kind of similar to how when they introduced the play-in, but the play-in was a success. I don't think this is going to be a success. My reasoning remains the same. It's both too early in the season and not enough money for most of the players to give a shit.
That's what I'm saying. And the big thing if you're competing against the NFL, you'll always be second tittle one way or the
Right.
other. It's
That
a
you
battle
can't
of who's gonna be that.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like you're not gonna win now. Like the NBA season, people start giving a fuck about the NBA season in December, like at Christmas. That's when
exactly.
people pay attention. Like this is too early for it to happen.
For sure. And the real diehard fans and all the hardos, except for one, but I think it's from a guy who always just tries to troll me in general, says he loves it, but it's just that they're putting something there with the courts, I guess. Maybe it's a little distracting, but I'm just happy to that the NBA is back. And we already do have some early story headlines there. But like I said, the focus is as a whole with the coaches of the NFL, but at least there are some interesting stories that have come in, you know, obviously to fill this show, but there is some stuff to talk about there, but it's tough time in the season. And I don't understand, right? With the NBA All-Star game is so randomly late in the year. Out of a 6-month period, it's at towards the end of the fourth month. And I don't know why you couldn't do it, maybe the NBA All-Star game the week after the Super Bowl, or maybe the weekend between the Super Bowl and the championship weekends. And then
No, you
like you
can't do it too
said,
close to
you
the
have
Super
to
Bowl. I think it needs to be. Yeah, I think it's fine where it is. You can't do it too close to the Super Bowl because that's like the super. It's like the one thing that like everyone turns into. It's you need to have it a couple weeks after that because of uh like people have to switch back over to caring about basketball.
yeah, and then all the traveling and all the sponsorships and all that stuff. But I know it is what it is, and it can't be moved. But the fact is, just moving the point I should have led with is the having it in March. And March Madness really doesn't start until late March, mid to late March, anyways. But you could do it in the first 2 weeks. The hardcore college basketball fan will enjoy their conference championships, but that's where you could put the in-season tournament there, or you put it in April, where
You put it after,
baseball
yeah, you put it
starts.
um after March Madness. That's when
Yeah,
they
yeah,
should put it because that's when teams don't care.
for sure, exactly. And you know, beginning of May is when the 2-month postseason begins anyway, so it could be some precursor there, and then people
To
like it more.
ramp teams up to like playing playoff basketball and maybe
Yeah.
tie it to some type of draft compensation.
And
That would
you
definitely get the
also just give you like you mentioned, just the incentive there. And if some teams want to play spoilers for playoff positions and stuff, that's what it could be. That's what that could be the compromise here. But like you said, it's the first year anyways. There are some interesting stuff. It's not a dull, but we'll ultimately see where this goes as the weeks progress. But one player who I specifically saw in the tournament have an entertaining game and has had a hot start to his NBA career, and somebody very near and dear to you, Victor Wembanyama. What do you think about his first couple weeks in the NBA and how versatile he's been becoming?
So this is not just a Wemby point, but like a general point. There's potentially 4 All NBA defenders in this rookie class with Wemby, Chet, and the Thompson twins.
I was
Like
gonna ask, do you
they're
count Chet
unbelievable.
in this? Even though well, yeah, you
Chet
do.
is
This is his rookie year because he got hurt in the
the rookie of the year
preseason.
race. He counts as this rookie class. Um, like the defense of this class is just off the charts. So like with Wemby, we've seen a little bit of everything. The defense is like insane. So
Oh yeah,
I don't know. There was this thing about shot charts where like guys who get contested the most shots at the rim, like he is and figuring it out. I was like, yeah, he's 4 years old. Chet or Victor's 19. Like he's gonna take his lumps. This is a young team. Like and even like the older guys like Devin and Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins, they're still kind of young. Like they didn't play that. Devin didn't play that much last year. Keldon's still figuring things out. They have Sohan at point guard, which fuck it, I don't care. I want them. I don't think they need a point guard yet. Like it does look better without it, but he's having, there's a prior to last night's game or the game against Miami, part of the problem with their opening lineup was Wemby and Zach not hitting. After their first like week, they were like 0 for 15 off threes from Sohan's passes. Like it was just bad. It wasn't anything like it's gonna be a learning curve. I think the thing for this season in general is almost every single team is where we thought they were or better than expected. There are very few teams that are worse than people expected them. Now I'm sure we'll explain that later, but like I think just the talent level is so deep that teams are just way better than people thought they, or they're exactly who we thought were, which is fine. Like
It's also
they're
still
teams that
early
are,
too.
yeah, it's still early. Um, things are, it's fine. He's gonna be he's gonna win rookie of the year assuming he plays the requisite amount of games and doesn't get hurt. Like he just is. This is kind of like a Blake Griffin thing where he is just better than all the others. Like like this is a
Yeah,
good
no,
class.
and I think that's what's Wemby show right from the bat, that he's, somebody to a force to be reckoned with. This guy knows how, as you mentioned, knows how to shoot, defends. He gets some solid blocks. He knows how to be clutch. I think that was one of the few things that impressed me, like the game against the Rockets specifically to
His
start the
fourth
year.
quarter. So going into, because I don't know where the stat went after this, but going into, I want to say it was the second Suns game. He was 12 for 15 for 29 points in the fourth quarter. Like his fourth quarter scoring was like number one in the league.
Yeah.
Like he's when they figure out how to get to him like throughout the game in the end, he's gonna do some damage. Like, yeah, they're gonna have games where, somebody like the Clippers blow them out, or somebody like Indiana could blow anybody out on any given night. So like things like that are gonna happen just because of how the league is set.
Exactly. And he's just so much fun to watch. He's a true attraction. And do you see apparently him and Chet are starting a little rivalry going on so far? As you mentioned, both in their draft class. I mean, Chet wasn't as hyped as Wemby, but he was definitely the best college basketball player coming into it until he got hurt during the summer league. But I hear there's some beef going on between those two. Have you heard about that?
I mean, yeah, fine. That's good. We need the more generational guys. Like they're in good spots. Like they're both young, like prototypes that we haven't really seen before on teams that can basically go after each other for years. Like the Thunder and the Spurs are set up to be good for basically the next decade. So if we get some type of like Dirk Duncan, Garnett, Duncan Garnett like matchups with them, that's fine. And you could throw Sengun in there as well as like another potential dark horse big guy that's coming.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So why don't we talk about some of the teams as you mentioned? What do you think about the Knicks early on? Didn't make much moves in the offseason. Slow start. Julius Randle, there are some concerns there. Has played a little bit better. And what do you think about the Knicks early on?
They're about where I thought they were. I mean, RJ is playing better. Julius is having his off year thing.
Sometimes it feels like it's always an off year.
Well, because he did this 2 years ago. After he signed the contract, he sucked, and then he was good last year, and the year before, and so he's doing this. This is a team that's a middle of the road team. You don't have the talent to compete with Boston and Denver, but you're not as bad as like Washington. Like you're like Cleveland-ish. You're like
right. You're
Cleveland
always already thinking about your draft position, and I doubt there'll be some trade deadline
I
move
wouldn't
made,
even
but at
worry
least have
about. I
some
don't think
consistency there.
worry about draft position. You'll probably end up somewhere in the 4 to 8 range for the
Well, what
playoffs.
I'm saying is clearly the Knicks have one piece missing. Need some big superstar to help Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, though very good, hasn't proved to be a superstar yet. Obviously the Julius Randle beef, we could go on all day. We've been going on day with years with this pod. And RJ Barrett's fine, but he hasn't reached his full potential that third overall pick is. And if they play a solid year, if they win another playoff series going in, and I don't know, maybe make that second series competitive again. This one went to 6, maybe went to 7. Maybe we're so lucky they get in the conference finals. I don't know, but it just seems so lame duck, as you mentioned. We've had it. It's better than the positions we were definitely were with, the Derek Fisher years, Jeff Hornacek years, winning under 25 games and getting used to it. So obviously that's better than where we were a decade ago. But you just want to see this team improve, at least seem more intimidated. Dante DiVincenzo's fine, but you just wish they would level up on their way to hopefully becoming a East
So yeah,
powerhouse.
there's two options. It's basically you're going to get Donovan Mitchell in free agency in like 2 years, or you're going to have to trade for someone. And at this point, it looks like Embiid is off the table.
Yeah, and I never took those seriously, but
well, I think that had a real chance of going sideways. It certainly does not look that way. So I think at this point, you're kind of looking at Towns. I think
yeah,
Towns.
he's he's an upgrade from Mitch Robinson. But yeah, I mean, everything. You just want this team to level up. You know how it is, and I mean, Knicks basketball is fun, but we just want to be, that you want to be eventually on that Celtics Bucks level, Miami Heat, and we're clearly a tier below. And what could this team do to, get closer to it? But
You
as you
need a
mentioned,
guy.
those two options, yeah, need a guy. 2 years is a long time, and a lot can happen in 2 years. And if we're going the Donovan Mitchell route, I mean, might as well take Karl Anthony Towns. But who knows what the T Wolves are cooking up. But I guess time will tell. Time will ultimately tell, and just
I
enjoy
mean, it's
this
not like
ride.
you're like in a terrible position. Your books are relatively clean. You have a whole bunch of extra draft picks coming in. Doesn't mean you don't like fuck up the draft and stuff. You can be like
Mm-hmm.
a team waiting for a guy for a couple years. Like I don't really know like who's coming out. Like, maybe things get really bad in certain places. Like there's a chance that um goes sideways in uh
In Chicago with the Bulls, and
not
if we get rid of
I
Zach
I
Levine
mean, yeah, but I
or
wouldn't touch any of those guys.
any of that
Like I would
roster,
if you're like a contender
it's
and you
really a
wanted
mess over there. You heard about them having team
DeRozan,
meetings already?
yeah,
Oh,
no, they're one of the teams that are worse than we thought it was. Like
mm.
they need to blow it up. They have nothing. I don't even know if they have their pick. I think they may not have their pick this year either. But like that's a team that needs to blow it up. I don't know where they're gonna send. Like this is the craziest thing about the Harden trade. Like it was so bad.
You want to
Like
get into that
why
right
don't
now? You want to get into it now? Talk about Harden? Yeah, let's do that.
yeah,
But
let's do it.
okay, so Harden and the Clippers, right? Well, we talked about it a couple weeks ago on a tweet cap, and ultimately it happened. So James Harden is a Clipper. They in the first 4 games, they have not won a game yet in the James Harden era. Just to go over the official trade, um, and let me say, as you mentioned, it just seems awkward. It just seems awkward watching those 4 games. But yes, here's a blockbuster trade that did happen, and excuse me. So the Sixers sent James Harden, PJ Tucker, and Flip Petrusev to the Clippers for Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nick Batum, KJ Martin, a 2028 unprotected first round pick, 2 second-round picks, a 2029 pick swap, and an additional first round pick from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And as mentioned, 0 wins out of it so far. And did you see when he went to the locker room first and Russ was there? And it was just, you could clearly cut the tension with a knife. What a great start
Well,
there.
so like here's the thing. There's so much wrong with this trade on like so many different levels. So one, just adding Harden to this team undercuts Russ because Russ like kind of found his groove and he was like happy there. And the last time they
Finally.
played together, they were like at each other. They were like, I can't be here anymore in one
Did
year.
and
So
did you see yesterday Russ getting taken out for Harden at the end of the
yeah,
fourth quarter?
which so the other like just the chemistry shit.
Yeah.
Second, like this trade didn't have to happen now. Like there was no reason for the Clippers to make this trade now. They could have easily waited. Like they had all the leverage. There was nobody else going for James Harden. Um,
No.
They could have made this trade in February at the trade deadline, and it would have been different. But like, they may have been able to actually get some picks back. So the fact they gave up 3 first-rounders for this trade is fucking insane. Like Philly had no leverage here, and they got 3 first-rounders for him. Is wild. Like if they had waited another week, there's no way they would make this trade.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see the way Tyrese Maxey, I think they panicked
Yeah,
a little.
50 point. You got a 50 burger this weekend.
Yeah,
Just
I
slip
think
it right in, and Tobias Harris has stepped up so far for the Sixers.
And it's not like they didn't they got a bunch, like they didn't get Terrence Mann, and that was like the sticking point. Who's probably a better player than the guys they got, but they didn't get like, end of the bench guys. Like Marcus, the Morris twin can cover, can go off in nights. Like you don't want him in crunch time because he shit himself in the bubble. And they're like fake tough guys. But like him and Covington and Batum, they're like legitimate players you could play during the regular season who would help you like in a rotation. Like they're not like totally bumps. And then on the Clippers side, like why James Harden? Like I get he's James Harden, but like James Harden sucks.
Thank you.
He wasn't good last year he was good, but he wasn't like good when it matters. He's been good when it matters ever. Like you don't need that type of
not in the playoffs, not in the regular season. Clearly, as I mentioned, not to repeat what we talked about the last time, I don't like it here in Houston. Go to Brooklyn to Philly to now. They were able to trade Ben Simmons for him, and I mean this is actually going to a good point. You saw Dallas Mavericks announcer Brian Damaris. He really had a lot to get off his chest. Clearly, like we saw him just obliterate James Harden for being a prima donna on the court, obliterating him for not being clutch when it needs to be. And he said the famous words, "You're not the beard. You're not the system. You're not the problem. You are the problem." Again, he said, "You're not the beard. You're not the system. You're the problem." What's your reaction to that?
He's right. Like James Harden is like, he's been a fantastic player in the regular season, and then it doesn't matter. And he quit. Like I cannot believe they traded 3 first-round picks. That's how many teams he's quit on the last 3 years. Like it is just mind-boggling. But speaking of things that people said, did you happen to catch what Lou Williams said to Paul George recently on his podcast? They were talking about the bubble, and this is
missed that. What did he say?
So this is why it's like insane that the Clippers traded for James Harden, a legendary franchise that chokes, traded for a legendary choker. He was talking about the bubble and saying how, because the Clippers believe that they would have won the bubble, which they didn't. Like they lost in historically embarrassing fashion.
That's right.
Like, so he was saying, yeah, we didn't take it as seriously because people were like making fun of us and like saying the ring wouldn't count. First off, it's a goddamn ring. Like if you win one, you win. It doesn't matter how you win it. There's an asterisk next to every season.
For sure. You have the banner. It's part of the banner for the Lakers. Ultimately win.
It's a banner. LeBron James has 4 rings. Like Anthony Davis is NBA champion. Dwight Howard is a champion. Rondo has 2 rings. Like that shit matters. Like it still counts. It's still that. And also, it's how you present it. Like how long has Boston been milking that 08 title?
It's been a long time. Yeah, you're right. 2008 is a long time ago.
That's such an insane thing to say. Like, oh yeah, we just like gave up. But that was the last time they were like consistently close to winning a title. Was the bubble? And I don't like, because the question every single team needs to be asking themselves is, does this make me better than Denver? And the answer to this is unequivocally no.
Nope. And then, as you mentioned, it seems it's just, Terrence Mann specifically in that video, I talked about him entering the locker room, wouldn't even look him in the eye. That's all it has to say about the Clippers. And you'd think the Clippers are, they're getting ready to finally step out of the Lakers' shadow, as you said. What were they originally? San Diego, sharing the arena with the Lakers. Steve Ballmer buys them after the whole Donald Sterling mess. And they're about to get a brand new arena next year. Maybe they could finally get their own identity, and yet you're trading all these assets for that new player, and you're relying on these veterans to take you so far.
Think about it. They have no draft picks through the rest of the decade. or no first rounders through the rest of the decade, they in return for this, because this is combined with the Paul George trade, which I don't know if they do again in hindsight because of how good Shea has been, but like they have one Western Conference Finals appearance.
Yeah,
That's it.
ever.
They don't have not a finals appearance, one Western Conference Finals appearance.
And I know, and
To be fair to them, though,
that's what
if
that's what the mess is, and like who would you say is like the Clipper? You know, the Lakers obviously have a long list from Magic to Kobe. Knicks have like a Walter Frazier. Cavs have LeBron. Who is the Clipper?
Blake, I think it's Blake,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and you know he only made it to the second round of the playoffs.
Well, I mean, before that, their one final Western Conference Finals is their only Western Conference Finals appearance. Like that's it. They've never been there prior to that or since.
Right. And
I
the
don't know.
Clippers,
Like,
what a mess. And do you think, and that's just what's disappointing as they are finally, branching out. It's going to take a long time to get a new star to help that out. And, you know, Kawhi and Paul George and Harden are all in their mid-30s, and they only have so much time left.
and it's not like they're
And they have a good
like
coach,
Harden
but
and Russ are durable, but like Paul
oh,
George and
those
Kawhi
no,
are not.
the
Like
complete
Kawhi is
opposite of that.
probably going to retire at the end of his contract unless somebody offers him like something stupid. And at this point, I don't know how you can. And then like Paul George, they should have just traded Paul George. They should have traded Paul George, tanked out the season, and then gone into next year with fucking Ron Holland or Matisse Bailey's or whatever fucking kid they draft, and like be like, hey man, we're gonna be the new young upstart kids instead of this like perpetually, oh, we would have won if we weren't injured for the 17th year in a row team. Like, because that's really like the even the Lob City teams were like just perpetually injured. They lost they lost to fucking Portland that one year because CP3, JJ Redick, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan all got hurt in that series. Like they're perpetually cursed. Like I cannot imagine like thinking, yeah, you know which team needs James Harden right now? The fucking Clippers.
No, and it's going to pay.
It's
It's going
like
to pay. You'll have to have Steve Ballmer buy him out when he gets pissed off in a few months.
no. I think I don't know where Harden goes where this goes when this goes south. I because I can't imagine who in their right mind goes, you know what? The fifth time's the charm.
You'd like to think there was a level-headed GM out there who would stay away, but I don't know.
No, I think
And
there
that's
were all the level-headed GMs that went. Like if you
except
can't,
Daryl Morey, who loves him, but
I
he
don't
ain't
think
giving
Daryl
him
Moore is ever going to go back to him. I think he stabbed him in the back too much.
definitely. He treated him like a cuckold. Like what a mess. I don't know, but we'll see how far the Clippers and if their big three can stay healthy the whole way. If they could hit the 65 game marks for all three of them, especially the
They
Kawhi.
also don't even complement each other. Like that's the crazy thing. Like if you're gonna make a trade for a guy like that, you need to have guys who like complement each other, and they don't. They're all best with the ball in their hands.
Yeah,
Except like Cal George can kind of play off the ball,
but
but they're ball
how
dominant.
they even going to get that? All points, just all points staggering. Why don't we talk about the reigning champions, though? You know, despite the Jamal Murray injury, do you still think the Nuggets are still going to coast by this regular season and maybe make another deep run? Because
They're gonna repeat.
obviously,
I think they're gonna repeat. They're just better than everybody else. They just are. I don't think they really
Jokic
lost that
hasn't lost
much.
a stride.
Jokic is still fine. Porter's playing better. Braun is their bench guys are doing fine. Um, I don't know. I think they're fine. Uh, I'm maybe they can swing something in the offseason. I think if they can get Jared Grant back, I don't think they have the cap space to do that. That would be like really good, but I think they're fine. I'm pretty sure they're just gonna keep kicking the shit out of everybody because they know who they are. And I think they're just a head and shoulders above better than everybody else. Like the second best team is probably Boston, and they're better than Boston.
Definitely by a long shot. But what about the Lakers? LeBron, year 20, he's looking pretty good, but they still have some pieces missing. Anthony Davis still already playing the injury bug. What do you think about the early Lakers? And do you even think the Lakers can advance anywhere with Anthony Davis? I don't think they would have the balls to get rid of him, but
They're
do
not
you
going to get
agree
it.
with
No,
something
because
like a Little Wayne said that you have to get rid of Anthony Davis to go anywhere?
no, because they were at their best when Anthony Davis was playing at their best. Like, they still got to trade. I don't know who it's going to be or where it's going to be. Um, but they'll be fine. Their guys are still haven't found their grooves. Like Gabe Vincent's not playing great, and Torian Prince isn't doing great. But it's still early. They're playing LeBron a little bit too much, but I don't think it matters because he's a goddamn mutant. Um,
Yeah, right.
it depends on who they swing stuff for. I mean, if they end up in with Zach LaVine in February, maybe that's I don't think that changes anything. Like I don't know who the guy out there is that's going to move the needle for them to beat Denver, because that's what it matters. I don't think they're better than Denver at this point, and I don't know where they go to get that guy.
But so one thing you mentioned with Levine, as we mentioned, the Bulls need to blow it up. But do you expect him, as long as he has a very good season, to impress scouts throughout the league? He would be the definitive special piece for whether it's the Lakers or another team in the league. He's the one to sought after.
Well,
We weren't
he's the
able to
biggest.
trade him last year, but you were saying.
I mean, I think it's so. I think DeMar is more likely to be moved simply because his contract is he's a free agent next year, so it's a easier contract to move because Zach still has like four years, $200 million or some crazy shit left.
Mhm.
So it's just a little bit harder to move that contract. Um, I mean, I don't expect either of them to be on the team by this time next year. Certainly, DeMar's not going to be there. Zach may still be there just because of his contract.
Mhm.
But this team is a disaster. It is like I'm sorry, man. Like I know we got like 2 months of whatever their peak was before Lonzo Ball's knees turned to dust. Um, but like sell it off, sell off everything. Like they probably could get at least a first rounder, if not more, for Caruso.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
uh,
and do
but
it
like
early, then start just have a rebuilding year.
yeah, because you don't have anything. You have nothing. Like there's no like guy on that team that you go, okay, we can like Patrick Williams has been terrible.
Mm-hmm.
He's not getting $200 million.
No, no. But talking about two teams that have been fun surprises, the Toronto Raptors and the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets with Ime Udoka. I think we've all kind of have his scandal behind us, swiped under the rug, and they're just playing. But I thought, what do you think about these two teams in particular so far? And have they been impressing you?
Yeah, the Rockets have been pretty good. I think he's like bringing in adults to like calm down and figure everything out has been really good for this team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sengun's playing really well. Jalen
Yeah.
Green's been good. Dylan Brooks is on a hot streak that's probably not sustainable, but
Yeah, he's
it,
particularly he's been able to suit well with his new team after leaving the Grizzlies and becoming the NBA's number one villain.
well, the Grizzlies are probably one of the most disappointing, if not the most disappointing team this season.
Oh yeah, no
Um,
Ja, and they're just they
they may
finally
be
got
the
their
second
first win a
worst team in
couple
the
weeks.
league right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
D
but
Rose is your big attraction for the Grizzlies.
but they're I mean, the Rockets are good. It's interesting. I don't know how far or how long they'll go, but when you bring in professionals, it's different. It makes it solidifies stuff. As for the Raptors, it's a Scotty league. Again, I don't know how much better this team is. Um, like you know, overall, I still think that Siakam and OG probably aren't on this team. Well, at least one of them isn't on this team next year. Um, Scotty's shooting well, that's fine. But it's still like a weird team that like is probably better than it was last year, but I don't know how much better that they're like going to be winning all the time. I think, we have it might be a good idea, like sell off Siakam and sell off. I don't know if I'd sell off
Yeah, I was
OG.
surprised they weren't able to get those moves done in the offseason, but
I
maybe
think I think Siakam's the guy that they move. I think you can still re-sign OG for like 4 years, and in like 2 years you can move that deal because it's not going to be that bad. But I think Siakam's probably not on this team next year.
yeah.
Because he's still like a guy that they could get stuff for. I don't know where they would send him to, because that's a guy who, like, if I had to choose, that's who I would want. He's
Nice final piece.
yeah, because he is very good, and
Oh yeah.
he's like really malleable.
Won a championship too. Knows how to perform in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was the second best player on that team.
Yeah.
Um, he's been a very good, like, he's a little overtaxed as a number one, but if you could find a team where he like fits good, I mean, it's not like inconceivable that he would be like a Lakers target, like as an upgrade over Rui and some of their other guys. Like he could do some of that shit. Um, or I don't even know who would even look at him. Like, yeah, they're interesting. I don't know. We'll see. I think they're more interesting as a trade target than they are as like a contender this year.
Definitely. So I wanted to go over ESPN's top 25 players under 25 with you coming into new season. And I think it's a really exciting time for the NBA. So why don't we discuss that, you and me? Let's go through 25 down and see if you agree and see if there's any potential with these players. So at 25, we have Sengun from the Rockets, just 21 years old, center you mentioned.
He's only 21.
Maybe
Wow.
he's only 21. Maybe we're seeing a rise at the center, growing more in the NBA, going to back. Maybe we're going back to a big man game. I don't know. But
It's not that it's going back to a big man game. It's the skills are shifting. Like, you don't need the traditional guard as much, but you do need, like, your best player needs to be able to facilitate more, and he's very good. Yeah. Okay. I'd have to see who else is on this list.
yeah, we also have. So if I go 25 through 20, it's Alpert Sagoon, Keegan Murray from the
The Kings.
Kings, Scoot Henderson from the Blazers, Tyler Hero, Jalen Duran, Walker Kessler. Out of those five, who do you think has the best potential?
I think Zagoon is probably the best player out of all of them. I would say it's
Mm,
Zagoon, and then Jalen Duren's playing really, really well. And he's only 19.
that Pistons teams are going to be very exciting to see. I'm sure
Yeah,
we're going to mention a
that's
couple more
actually a
as we
team
go
that might
on.
be a sneaky trade candidate because they got some pieces, and Jaden Ivey is not.
You would trade them though. You wouldn't let them see what you have there. You have Monty
Well,
Williams
I mean, they
coaching
have
first
like
year.
extra guys like Burks and stuff. They could trade Bogdanovich. Maybe that would open up some minutes for
Mm,
Ivy. Or
I see.
or if they've given up on Ivy, maybe Monty doesn't like Ivy, and you could potentially get him. Like, if you could trade for Jalen Ivy, that would be worth a first round flyer on him. Um, like
Yeah, definitely.
that's. But no. So wait, it was Sangoon, Hero, Kessler, um, Murray.
Henderson, Scoot, and Murray.
I think Scoot's been the most disappointing top pick from this draft. He's
Hmm.
been bad.
Yeah,
I know he's hurt now, but he's been bad. Um, in a way that I didn't really expect him. Like, I didn't expect Brandon Miller to be as good as he was. Um, but I thought Scoot would be. And it's 10 games. I don't know when he got hurt, but he's it's been a little rough for him. But Shane Sharp's been killing it. Shane Sharp's looks really
yeah, and
good.
remember, Scoot's only 19 years old too.
Yeah, like, but he was playing the G League the last 2 years, so I thought he would be a little bit better than he
Hmm.
is. I
Yeah, he hasn't
and it
found his
could just
stride
be
yet.
like, yeah, there's still plenty of time. But no, I think Sengun's the best player out of the group. And like, the thing with Walker Kessler is, I don't know how much better he's gonna get. Like,
They think this is
it's
their
not that
ceiling here with the Jazz.
he's not good. He's more of an archetype guy, and he's really good at that archetype. Like the defensive, like, rolling anchor guy. But like, you know, those guys only can do so much. I just don't know. Like, he's really good at what he's doing, and he's good for the cheap contract. But I don't know. Like, I don't think he's the playmaker that some of these other guys is, and I don't know how much of a shooter he is.
Mm-hmm. So the next five, we have Jalen Green, Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, Franz Wagner, and Scotty Barnes.
Is that
Next
Scotty's
five,
the
so
top?
20 through 15.
So Scotty's the highest ranked at it.
Yeah, he's 15.
Yeah, I would say Scotty's the best, and then it's
Then you
yeah,
have
I think
Franz
Jalen's
Wagner
probably
there. Yeah.
yeah, I think that sounds about right because um Giddy can't shoot like at all. But I
No.
mean, he's the slob wizard, so yeah, I mean his passing and his ability, like he's huge. Like being a big guard is great. Um, I think that sounds about right. I mean, Jalen Green, we can see. Maybe it's kind of hard to judge him just because like now we're trying to figure it out. But
Yeah.
those Scotty's definitely better than they are. And then I would say Franz is probably the next best.
So 14 through 10, we have Paolo, Chet Holmgren at 13, Evan Mobley, 12, 11 is Tyron Maxey. I was to say Paolo was playing really good in his birthday. He's had a quite good start in this particular season.
I just I'm hesitant, but I think Chet's better than Mobley. I
Think
think
so. Even with Mobley, hey, he's been a
I think
powerhouse for the
Mobley.
the Cavaliers so far.
Well, at this point, I think without knowing the top 10, Maxey feels a little low based on just what he's been doing this season. Um,
Mhm.
this was obviously before the season, right? That
This was released actually yesterday,
okay, but it was
this
like
past weekend.
based
But
on
yeah, pretty much
so
before the season, pretty much.
yeah, so like based on what he's done now, he'd probably be higher. We'd have to see. I don't know who's in the top 10, but I think Chet's offense, I think offsets whatever defense Mobley has. I think Chet's offense is at a place that they were hoping Mobley would get to, and I don't think he's there yet.
Do you think he'll eventually get there?
I would hope so because he's a good player,
Yeah,
and it's really he just can't shoot it all.
right.
It's a weird Cavs team.
Now 10 through 6, top 10 through 6. Jaren Jackson at number 10, LaMelo's at 9, Darius Garland's at 8, Zion at 7, Cade Cunningham at 6.
Okay, so is this based on long term potential or just where they are now?
I would assume where they are now, top 25, under 25. So yes, where they are now, I would say.
Because I would say Tyrese Maxey's better than LaMelo.
Oh yeah, and LaMelo's had a hard time staying on the court too.
Yeah, like I don't like I just think he's just not as good. And also like yeah, if you're worried about like potential, if you're like overall like this is the perfect guy, like Zion's always going to be on this list. But I have no faith in Zion being there's a good chance Zion plays another month of basketball and then he's done for the season. Like
yeah,
obviously I'd like to see him play. And even though he's healthy, he doesn't know what he's doing. Like he doesn't have any moves and he doesn't have any like real skills to rely. He just bullies his way to the basket. So in like the end of the game, he's predictable. And also he's not the same guy. Like his athleticism is still like crazy, but it's not like defensively and offensively, he's not moving in the same way that he was.
It's not that
And
fun to
Jared
watch
Jackson
as he
Jr., I
used to
don't know
be.
what the fuck to think. He's basically a 7-foot shooting guard. He can't rebound at all. It's
part of the dysfunction in Memphis right now.
Yeah. Who else was on that list?
So from 10 through 6, the only other person we didn't mention besides Jaren, LaMelo, Darius Garland,
Oh,
Zion,
Darius Garland, I think it's fine. I think he's fine.
And then
he's still very
Cade
good.
Cunningham
He's one of the better young guys. He's probably I don't know how old Darren Fox is, but like just off
I
the
have to
top
say
of my
De'Aaron Fox is not on this list, so I would assume over 25.
So I would say the guys who are probably above him, just off the top of my head, Tyler Halliburton is definitely better than Garland. But I would rather have Garland than LaMelo.
Yes. So to answer your question, so the top 5, right? By the way, De'Aaron Fox is right is 25 years old, so that's what makes him out of here. But according to this, ESPN's top 5 players under 25. Number 5 is John Morant at 24 for the Grizzlies. Number 4 is Tyrese Halliburton. Number 3 is Victor Wembanyama. And number 2, Anthony Edwards. And do you want to guess who number 1 is?
It's Luka.
It's Luka, yes. He's 24 years old.
Okay. I agree with the top 3. I think you could possibly by the end of the season make the argument that Ant's better than Luka.
Really?
Ant is unbelievable right now. Because like the thing with them is Luka may be a better passer, but like Ant can guard Luka, and Luka can't guard anybody.
No.
Like Ant when he he's a good defender generally, but when he wants to be, he can be a really like top tier defender. And Luka just doesn't have that. And then who was Halliburton was 4, and who was 5?
And this is John Morant.
Yeah. I fine.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, look, they were they were like the 2 seed for like 2 straight years.
Right. And you see how much they miss him now, obviously on his half season suspension for the gun issue.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to come back. I mean, they may be out of the playoffs by the time he gets back in. They're just absolutely terrible.
Yeah, right. No
Like
Steve Adams either. Man.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this is a weird thing to say, but it's kind of too bad they didn't suspend him for longer so that they could be like, yeah, you know what, we're just going to pack it in this year. Because this would be like, that would be a good built-in excuse for them to like pack it in. Because
and
a lot
clearly,
of the young talent
tank.
guys that we've been. Yeah, because they similar to the Warriors, where they have a bunch of guys that like you think could be good, that when you actually play them, it turns out they're not.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what they're dealing with. Like they've missed on a bunch of guys. Like Zaire didn't pan out. Their other wings like Rudy, their other big guys just haven't been great. Obviously, Clark is still injured. I don't know if he's coming back this year. But you know, I guess on the bright side, they didn't trade the 3 first-rounders for OG in what's going to be a lost season. I mean, if they're fully healthy, they should absolutely trade for OG and Anunoby. But I think that's the top of this list makes sense to me. I think the biggest thing is I think Sengun's too low. I think LaMelo is overrated. I think simply because he's flashy, but they suck. Like
the
they
Hornets
just suck. Like
nothing even with a better Gordon Hayward this year.
Like I understand last year, like he missed a bunch of time and they were bad, but the 2 years before that, they were basically the same team and they weren't that good.
No, long ways to go for the Charlotte Hornets, and they had to switch management, ownership, I should say.
Look, other than you know, they got some pieces. You know, Brandon Miller's better than expected. LaMelo's still good. Mark Williams is doing something. They made the right decision. You know, basically that Miles Bridges isn't coming back. PJ Washington's a dude. Like, you know, maybe they flip Hayward and like they have no bench. Like they have no guard bench depth at all. Book night being bad really fucked them. So maybe they give those minutes more to Brandon Miller, let him run point for that. But yeah, they could. It's not like they couldn't trade Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier and just be bad. Because like, so the thing with them is they don't want to be good yet because their pick for the next 2 years is top 14 protected to the Spurs. So if they are like, if they do make that 8 seed and they end up with the 15th pick, they don't keep it. So it's better to be like shitty and get like not that this is a great draft class, but like, you know, there's some pieces in it that you could just stockpile. Like if you're, because then I don't know if it doesn't. I think it's like 2 seconds if it doesn't convey. So like, you know, be bad. It's not like you haven't locked up. I think LaMelo's locked up for the next 3. It's like he's not going to go anywhere. I mean, he might, but like
you might as well let at this point. You know, we know with the NBA in particular who's really going to be contending out here. I mean, it's just the reality of the sport. And as much as you want to get in season tournament banner up there, you know, you have to be real with it. So I wouldn't blame them for taking it a little easy for 2 years with low expectations. And with
Yeah,
that, there's
just
actually
like actually rebuild. Like you had a thing, and then it got derailed by the fact that Miles Bridges is a scumbag,
mhm.
and like figure out what you have now. It's not like they don't have like financial commitments. If you need to take 2 years to like figure it out, figure
Do
it
it like
out.
an OKC, as you mentioned. As I mentioned, they already have 4 players on this top 25 list. And, now we actually have to see it unfold into something, but you get the potential from it while, being patient with it. And especially the rebuilding part. So they actually two last things to discuss, then we'll put a bow on it. The Bucks. This first time I'm talking to you, they did get Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard is a Milwaukee Buck. So far in the Giannis and Dame era, I think it's fair to define the Bucks right now as an amazing offensive team, but they really, really are struggling on defense. What do you think about the Bucks so far?
They're
And is that
exactly
an
what people
accurate?
thought they were.
Mhm.
They're exactly anybody who said this is like, okay, well, how are you going to guard it? Because Dame is not a good defender, but nobody cared when he was dropping 30 every night. But they have no wings. Like you have nobody who you can trust to guard. And now Jay Crowder's out like 6 to 8 weeks. Um, I mean, if they had any picks, like getting an Alex Caruso would be a godsend to this team. Um, like it would. But I don't know. I think this trade really has a potential to go sideways.
Think
For them
so.
very like they because like if you're wing, you don't know what you're getting out of Chris Middleton at any point. Especially when he's healthy. Like, but they can't guard anybody, and you're not going to win if you can't guard it.
No, and
Like
we've seen
every
that. They
every single guard they play is going to average like 40 points against them. He can't guard anybody. He just can't.
yeah, so far you have to bet those overs with those games. They'll score 125, but their opponent will score 127 on them, and then they're out of luck with that. It's been a huge weakness, and you also lose your best defender in the Celtics trade in Drew Holiday, and he's clearly being missed and being used on the Celtics for what they could have used for the Bucks on defense.
Yeah, they possibly could have gotten something more had they done a different trade.
I think it would have been possible without sacrificing Drew Holiday.
I don't know. I don't think so because they don't really. I think you needed Drew Holiday to make the numbers work.
Right.
But like I think they would have been better just staying put than what they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's possible at the end of the year that's different, but we've seen what happens when Drew Holiday plays Damian Lillard in the playoffs. Like
Yeah.
he eviscerated.
Shut down D.
Like Damian Lillard in the playoffs hasn't really outplayed like star guards either. So it's not like we're in that level either.
Just gets those two lucky buzzer beaters, and credit to him. But yeah, they weren't as dominant, the Blazers, with what they have been, and couldn't get out of the second round. So it only shows. And with the Sixers, the last team to discuss here, the Philadelphia 76ers. And how do you think they have been able to handle the departure of James Harden? And, we talked about some players stepping up, you know, Maxey looking really good. And Tobias Harris has been stepping up. Nick Nurse, new coach, seems to bring some light with the Sixers. What do you think about them so far?
Nick
Embiid
Nurse
hasn't
is a
gotten
really
hurt yet.
fucking good coach.
Yeah,
He's a
right.
really good coach, and
Got a
I
ring.
cannot believe he went there. I cannot believe the Bucks didn't hire him. Um, but like
Seems like that might
Tyrese
bite
Maxey
them in
playing
the
really
ass.
well. Yeah, probably. Tyrese Maxey's playing fantastic, and Joel Embiid's playing better. Like he's doing a lot of better passing and stuff. Like I think he's like doubled his assist average. But they're good. They're moving, and I don't know. Like obviously, it's early, and it'll be interesting to see. I think they're a little bit deeper than they were last year. I don't think they're really going to skip a beat with Harden. I think they've kind of figured out how to replace that.
Yeah.
Um, like it's not in the same like if you could make the argument in Washington that like Jordan Poole can basically replace Bradley Beal's numbers, and in a sense he is. They're still just going as far with Jordan Poole as they are with Bradley Beal. But like I think they're moving and they're doing better this year. Now, obviously, how does that work in the playoffs? I don't know. I know the Bucks beat them on opening night. We have to see. They beat the Celtics. The Celtics still need a better bench. I think he may be the second or third best coach in the conference. And Embiid's not going to win MVP. Again, like I cannot unless they're like the 1 seed by like a big margin. But this is probably what a better MVP year would have looked like. Because like he won last year because people were like, can we really give it to Jokic even though he hasn't won anything when he's clearly the best player?
Yeah,
But
and they
like
did
this
that
may
with
be like
LeBron
a
and all that. The
yeah,
huge politics in the NBA awards, right? Am I
right.
right?
Like this may be he should have won the MVP, but he's not going to because he shouldn't have won it last year type of season for Embiid.
Hmm. Well, this is
But
his
I mean,
way to
it
prove
looks
it. Oh, it's all him now. He's the guy. And I think he could be a solid number one and, cement his legacy out there in Philly.
well, he's got to be healthy. But yeah, though this is the year that like similar to how Harden has no one else to blame other than him. Like there's nothing else happening. Like when they lost to the Raptors, Jimmy left, and then they had Ben Simmons as a scapegoat, and then he got hurt, and then it didn't work out last year with Harden because Harden is Harden. So like you always, but there's nobody else.
Yeah.
Like it's on him now.
And we'll see who steps up if he can be that special great player. All right, Faces. I think we can wrap this up. After February, we'll be doing this on a weekly basis. And let us see where this all unfolds. And we'll see in a couple weeks to check in and see how this season has gone up until, right before the big holiday season boom. So thank you again, Fresh Faces, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you, man.